Well, the Minister of Public Service has given striking arts teachers in government schools a two-day ultimatum to return to work for their or lose their jobs. Uganda National Teachers Union, UNATU, last week announced a sit-down strike for all arts teachers starting June 15th over a proposed segregative salary enhancement in favor of science teachers in government schools. Now, tonight with me in studios, I have Mr. Baguma Philbert, the Secretary General to UNATU, an umbrella body of teachers in Uganda. Well, be a part of this conversation on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. The hashtag is NTV on the spot. I'm Andrew Chamagiro and the conversation starts now. Philbert, good to have you, and the entire nation is watching.
Yes.
You have up to tomorrow to either go back to class or you're fired. Are you going back to class or are you taking the later?
We are not going to class.
You are not going to class?
Yes.
You're defying the government position.
That's not defying the government position.
What is that you're doing?
It is our right.
Okay.
Constitutionally, we have a right to do what we are doing.
So what do you call what the Secretary of the Public Service is doing? Is it intimidating? Is it threatening? We had you in the news saying you won't be intimidated, you want to be ganged. You used very heavy words, Philbert. That's why today I said, thank God I have you instead.
Yes, you see, when we are negotiating, and someone comes with a militaristic kind of approach, then you don't have kind words for her. First of all, our industrial action is illegal.
True.
So if we are expecting government to look at the errors and omissions that were made during the process and rectify them, but instead choose the path of intimidating, then the law will take its course.
Okay. For one who has not been following up what needs to be rectified, do you mind taking us a little bit back into that? Because they're fronting salaries, but there's so much impending issues in the teachers' demands.
Yes. Right now what we are looking at is basically salary. There are so many other issues that affect the teaching and learning process. But the current issue at hand is the salary. In the year 2018,
can we go back to 2012, because this is where I started, where I saw it. We don't come to 2018. Let's go back to 2012 because you're part of that. Philbert, let's go back to 2012 and you bring us closer. I'm listening. We have all the time.
In the year 2010, we had issues with salary. In 2011, we went to State House Entebbe. And we met His Excellency the President. We had a number of demands. Some of these demands were increasing the payee threshold from 135,000 to 270,000. We were also demanding science allowance for teachers who deserve it, because the government had started giving science allowance to scientists
not
in
teachers.
2010, and the teachers were left out. So we were demanding that the teachers who deserve this allowance should be given this allowance. We were demanding the timely payment of capitation grants and of course increment, because it was not only looking at the literal money, but we were also looking at increasing it to meet the economic demands at that time.
Okay.
We also had a request of increasing salary by 100%.
This is 2012.
2011.
2011, yeah.
By 100%. And many other demands. Getting them off head, 2011 is long ago.
I know. But at least we have captured the critical ones.
Then we were also demanding government to give us a revolving fund.
As teachers.
As teachers. Now, what did we secure that time? One, the issue of payee threshold was later captured, but they didn't take it to 270 as we were demanding.
They brought it to?
They brought it to 235,000.
Did they give a reason?
Of course, they were looking at, they look at the bracket.
Managing expectations.
They look at the bracket and then see how much they are going to lose. Those who are not going to pay it, and they limit the threshold.
Okay.
So that is how
There's a
it
technical
came
knock.
to 235,000. The 30% science allowance was honored, and the government provided 40 billion for that.
Wow. Well done.
A revolving fund.
Was it given?
Government promised 25 billion.
Promised.
The president pledged 25 billion. But in that meeting, of course, we had line ministries, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Public Service, Ministry of Education. So they finance guided that they could not get 25 billion at a go. And therefore proposed to phase it in 5 years, 5 financial years, giving 5 billion shillings per financial year. And that this money would be budgeted for under Ministry of Education and Sports. On salary, government came down, brought us from 100% to 50%. But even the 50% was not there. And therefore we would have it.
Did they give?
We would have it in 3 financial years.
The 50%?
Yes. 15%, 20%, and 15%. And we said, okay, when you go for negotiation, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win, yes.
You don't go with a predetermined
at times
position.
you compromise. Yes.
So we accepted and said, okay, let's take it. On capitation grant, they only worked on the issue of timing. And we agreed that capitation grant should be sent 2 weeks before opening of schools.
That was an agreement and documented.
Yes, that is what we agreed on. So that the school administrators can prepare for reopening of schools. Now we came to implementation. Of course, it is a very long story.
Yeah.
Sometimes the counting of government changes.
I wanted to go back
salary
to the 5 billion
yes.
that was coming in the different financial years. How far with that money has it come through yet?
That money, in 2011, it did not come. 2012 did not come. 2013 did not come. 14-15, it came.
5 billion,
the first installment. Now, at that time, when we left, when we were given that pledge, we didn't have a mechanism of managing this fund.
The funds, yes.
Because as a union, we could not go into lending
Money.
and borrowing. So we thought of beginning a circle.
As teachers.
Yes. So from there, we started working on documentation to register a circle.
So that you can have license to lend money.
So in 2012, on 3rd December, we registered the UNATU circle. We succeeded in registering UNATU circle. We waited for the money. When the money was budgeted for, now Ministry of Finance said, no, this what you registered is a primary circle. And therefore,
It does not qualify.
it does not qualify to manage this fund. We were not convinced. But we said, okay, let us go ahead and register
what kind
a secondary circle. So finance outsourced a fund manager, and they identified microfinance support center. But to us as Uganda National Teachers Union, we were not comfortable with having a fund manager other than managing the fund
Yourselves.
ourselves. So microfinance support center was identified. It received money in 2014-15, 15-16, to the tune of 9,317,000,000 shillings.
But was this accessible to the other teachers who needed it?
I am coming to you.
You seem wary already, Philbert.
Remember,
Yes.
we were not comfortable with the fund manager.
Yes.
Now, when they received this money, to date, we have never seen this money.
It's with the microfinance support center.
Yes.
Have you contended this in courts of law? Have you taken it before the powers that be?
We have not gone to court.
Why?
Because those who gave them the money have continuously told them to give us our money. The president himself, His Excellency the President, has on several occasions, more than 2 times, while presiding over our World Teachers' Day national celebrations, publicly said, let them give the teachers their money. The letters they have received, all line ministries have written to microfinance support center to give the teachers their money, including the Minister of State for Microfinance. He also wrote and even gave a schedule how the money will be given. To date, we have not seen even a single coin.
For all those years, Philbert, haven't you galvanized the capacity to run your own funds as a teacher's circle?
Of course, later on, we registered what is today called Walim Teachers Circle Union.
Yeah.
It is the one managing the fund. And they received up to 17 billion 850 million around there. And that is the money they are giving out to teachers.
To the teachers. But you still have a date with the microfinance support center.
They loved our money more than we do.
I hear you.
And you know, there is a saying that if you love the child more than the mother, it means you are likely to eat that child.
Anytime.
So microfinance support center still has our money,
And it should.
and we still need our money.
So what is your contention with the government? Tomorrow the government says that if you insist with the teachers of arts striking and all, you're going to be fired. People are going to lose jobs because Philbert, you, the Secretary General, you've told them, stand your ground. What is your biggest contention with government here? We the parents, we need to know, because our sons and daughters are left under the trees, and some of them have been sent back home because the teachers are on the strike.
First of all, like I was telling you, in 2018, under the public service negotiating consultative settlement and disputes machinery, there is a council
that was initiated from there.
That was initiated from there. That is supposed to negotiate issues of public service unions. And it is housed and hosted by Ministry of Public Service. We sat as public service unions with Ministry of Public Service officials and the chairperson of the council. We came up with a roadmap, a collective bargaining agreement. We had a series of meetings, and we agreed, and we all clapped on the signing that now the issues of running up and down talking about salary are done.
And we covered
because
it as media.
We have 2018, 2019, 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022, 2022, 2023. And that was the end line of the collective bargaining agreement. Now, we knew all these years we would not talk about salary.
Here you are.
That document was signed on 18th June 2018. 22nd June 2018. Now, we knew and we clapped and we said this is a landmark. Because there has never been a collective bargaining agreement in a public service. This was the first of its kind.
Have they stood by it up to now?
I am coming. So the first phase, the first
your
phase,
worries seem to have started from way back.
The first phase, they paid civil servants, and we said, yeah, it is working.
Not teachers.
Teachers were in the second phase. So when it came to 2019-2020 financial year, where the teachers were supposed to benefit, there was no provision for increment, there was no communication.
COVID came through.
That was before COVID. No increment provided for, no communication to that effect. So we had a meeting in the Ministry of Public Service for the council, and I posed a question.
What was the question?
They indicated there was no money. But if you don't have the money and we have the agreement, you are supposed to communicate by all fairness. So I came back and we gave a notice as Uganda National Teachers Union, a notice of 90 days. It was issued on 19th February 2019.
Failure to?
Expiring on 19th May 2019. When we gave a notice, within the 90 days, no government official talked about that notice. They kept quiet.
What does this kind of language mean to you? Because there is silence, there is no communication. Even when you provoke them with such strong documents, they're not responding. What does this mean to you from your lenses?
It is the irresponsibility of the highest order. Because by all standards, you are in a public office.
You should respond.
If they write to you, why not respond? Because that's why you are in that office. So, on the 20th
May,
we started our industrial action. When we started it, shamefully, they went on to the media and started saying, we have never received a notice. I went to office, picked it,
you showed it to the
and
media.
showed it to the media in a camera with stamps received.
I hear you.
Now the words could not come out again to say we did not see it. Now they started saying, okay, you come. Remember, 90 days, nobody
was responding. Does that mean, Philbert, that the government or the powers that be only respond to industrial action, not diplomacy or kind of paperwork?
Possibly, that is the style
they respond to.
So, we started industrial action, then they invited us, we started the talks. Said, okay, but this is where we are. We agreed on this document. You did not inform us that you could not get the money, and therefore maybe let us push this year to next year or something else. There was no communication at all. So we had no option but to follow what the law says.
Industrial action.
Yes. Because we are supposed to give 90 days notice.
And we did.
So we went into discussions here and there, and at the end of the day, they said they had managed to get 150 billion. Out of 150 billion, they gave 15 billion to public universities because they classified us as education.
It's one sector.
15 billion, public universities. 135 billion was given to primary, secondary, and tertiary. We said, okay, let us suspend our industrial action pending government to fulfill the obligation, because remember, every financial year had its figures. So and they were supposed to increase progressively depending on where the financial year is. If you are not in first phase of 2018-2019, there is a figure that is there for you, but you are not getting it. You are going to 2019-2022. So when you go to 2019-2020, then you are supposed now to get a figure that is in that column.
Yeah, as per the inflation level as well.
Now, in 2020,
did it come?
COVID-19 came.
And we shut down.
And the country was shut down.
Yeah.
So we couldn't demand to say, please, 2021, 2020, 2021, COVID was still around. We didn't demand.
Here you are.
We want to thank government because it continued to pay all its workers.
Regardless.
Because the workers are not the ones who brought COVID-19. For them, they were available to work, but the conditions could not warrant them to work. So now, when we resumed in 2022, we expected the government to follow what we had agreed
previously before COVID.
Now we saw different things coming. Now saying government is concentrating on science and therefore our priority is science. We do agree that science is a tool to development. We all respect science and technology for development. But science and technology cannot go in isolation. The subjects we teach, be it primary, be it secondary, be it at any level, are complementary
to each other.
Yes. If you are in A level and you have MEG, you have someone teaching mathematics,
economics.
You are going to say, okay, mathematics is science.
Economics,
geography. Now, what perturbed us is that government comes and uses divide and rule under the pretext of prioritizing.
Right there. We're still having the conversation. We're going to dive into the divide and rule shortly. The conversation is about the teachers' strike. The government gave them an ultimatum that tomorrow, if they're still striking, whoever is still on the strike will lose their job. Philbert Baguma here, the Secretary General of the UNATU, says they are still going to strike. They won't be intimidated. The rule of law must come into motion. We'll take a break for now, and when we return, drop me a text on Twitter and I'll sample your feedback. Of a section of teachers, hence justification of the strike. Well done. And then we have another person here on Twitter. This one says that Ahewa William says, Philbert, don't expose the jealous you have for science teachers. Government has the goodwill. This is feedback from online. You know, my generation, we talk and we actually
First of all, teaching science does not make you science teacher. They are teachers of science. If you teach English, you don't become an English teacher. You are a teacher of English. And therefore, he needs to correct the impression. Two, that is his opinion.
Yes.
Of thinking that he is now more of a teacher than others. We have not said government should not give them their money.
Yeah. But you want a level
We
ground.
are only saying government should give them what it promised them. But all teachers matter.
Well done.
All subjects complement each other. Science does not begin from secondary. The teaching of science does not begin from secondary. And therefore, what we are saying is that there should be fairness when government is enhancing salary. From 2012, they have been earning 30% over and above their counterparts.
The science teachers.
The teachers of science. And we are the ones who demanded for that allowance to be given to them
as a union,
from government. The current disparity is that you are going to have over 300% between the two. One is given over 300% and the counterpart 0%. And these are two people having the same experience, teaching in the same school, same class, same learners, using the same minutes. And that is where the problem is. Now, we are not saying don't pay them.
But let's be fair.
We are not saying don't divide what you have provided for them. We are only saying you have children. You cannot lock some children in the room and put others in the sitting room. You give food to those in the sitting room and tell those in the bedroom to wait.
Until when these ones are done.
Until when you get more food. Then you will find them dead.
That brings me to my other question. Government is saying it does not have avenues to mobilize resources. And it is saying that they don't have money for the incrementers you need. Are you willing to listen to that kind of conversation now?
If you don't have money, then you don't show signs of extravagance.
By extravagance, you mean?
Recently, in the last week of May, government went to Parliament with a supplementary budget of over 600 billion.
True.
And in that budget, they had a thank you for MPs of 40 million each. We have seen it in the public domain.
Yes, it has been.
We have seen some parties demanding their MPs to return the money, and the MPs are swearing we cannot return it. Meaning that money was received. Are those signs of a government without money?
They have the money.
How many teachers would you increase salary for with 40 million? If you were giving, let's say, 1 million, those are how many teachers?
You've covered, yeah.
What one MP took is equivalent to an increment of 40 teachers, adding them 1 million each. And therefore, when you say there is no money, let us see the actions of and the behavior of no money. And we all know there is no money.
Is it upon these basis lines that you use as a union to say that if they can spend all that much money in, you know, a thank you mode, that ours, it's just not being prioritized? Do you feel that whether in one or the other government is intentionally sabotaging your demands in one or the other?
Obviously, because you are aware you have an agreement. Which agreement is expiring next financial year? You are not talking about it. You are not indicating signs of saying maybe we can sit and review it and make a provision. You are only keeping quiet and you are saying government does not have money. Then you are in a breach of an agreement.
I remember last week you had a meeting with the president.
Yes.
How did things go? What was the breakdown of this meeting? Because if that meeting was fruitful, Philbert, you shouldn't be actually having this strike going on. Tomorrow you shouldn't be intimidated with losing jobs.
Obviously. You see...
Did you disagree with him?
We went to State House St. We presented our case.
Was the Minister of Education present in this meeting?
She was present. Actually, the meeting was called by her. It was not called by the president. The meeting was called by the Minister of Education and Sports. But when we reached, it was chaired
by the president.
By the president.
In her presence, though?
In her presence, in the presence of the Minister of Public Service, in the presence of the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Public Service, in the presence of the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education and Sports, and other senior government officials.
Finance wasn't there.
Finance wasn't present.
Carry on.
Now, after presenting our issues, of course, we are looking at the learner. You see, teaching profession is different from other professions.
Yeah, I agree.
You cannot go to teach unless you are psychologically prepared. Now, this is a situation where government says we don't have the money. True, we have come from COVID-19. But every Ugandan public servant was being paid. Why would the government without money pay one category of teachers by over 300%? What we are talking about is a teacher of science graduate who has been earning 1.2 million. You raise this teacher to 4 million.
And you leave the one of arts?
And the one of arts who was earning around 1,080,000, you leave him there before taxes. Now, a diploma holder who was earning around 950,000
before taxes.
Yes. You take him, you skyrocket him to 3 million, and you leave his counterpart at 745,000 before taxes. These are people who went to the same school, studied together, have the same qualifications. Now, there is another dilemma. This teacher of diploma is going to earn more than the deputy head teacher, more than a head teacher,
director of studies,
more than the DEO, more than the inspector of schools, more than the human resource officer who manages the payroll, more than the town clerk, more than the cow.
One teacher.
Now, that is a management crisis you are creating.
How best should this have been handled from your context as someone at the leadership front of the teachers in this country, given that the 2019 agreement was abrogated in one or the other? How best could we have, went through this?
You see, there was a disruption of COVID-19, and that is understandable to each one of us. There was nothing wrong with government coming to say, look, we were disrupted by COVID-19. We had reached financial year 2018-2019. We were supposed to have implemented 2019-2020. Why can't we start from there and we push these years ahead because the reason is COVID-19?
And it's understandable.
And it's understandable, and the figures are maintained progressively. That would have no problem. We wouldn't be in this confusion. But this issue, people may think this is an issue of teachers.
It
is not an issue of teachers, it is an issue of the learners. You cannot have a teacher earning 4 million, you studied together, you are doing almost more or less the same work. Maybe you are even more experienced than this teacher. He earns 4 million, you earn 800,000. He enters class, teaches for 40 minutes, comes out, you also enter.
40 minutes.
Even when you are entering, you may fail to speak.
Demotivated by far.
When you go to the staff room, you will be seated while you are lamenting about the economic crisis.
They want.
The other one is looking at you.
One will have cassava, one bread.
Now, at the end of the day, you are going to the same markets. You are going to the same shops.
And you have the same pressure needs.
You are living and working in the same environment. That itself will affect the teacher and will affect delivery. The head teacher will have no words. You cannot start. You cannot
The
start.
teacher is earning more than you.
Yes. So who are you? What are you going to say?
So we're going to use money as a yardstick of authority, and who leads what?
Obviously, in a public service.
Yeah. Who has the big money?
Save for the army where there is
Order.
order and moja. In a public service, even the appraisal system, someone who earns more than you do
has more powers.
has more powers and is able to supervise you. But if you earn more than what your supervisor earns, the inferiority complex is automatic.
And this takes me back to my question, Philbert. How best could this have been addressed?
That is what I am telling you, that if government had honored the provisions within the collective bargaining agreement,
as agreed before,
we would not be having this challenge. But now the distortion
is in selective.
You see, you can force the teacher to go to class, but you cannot force him to teach. You can force the horse, you can beat it, take it to the river.
You can't force it to
You
draw,
beat it,
drink.
it puts the mouth in the river, but you cannot force it to sip the water. And therefore, this is what we are talking about, and this is what we are looking at. And Ugandans must understand the context
of this strike.
And the consequences of what this will bring to the teaching learning process.
Doesn't UNATU have our children at heart? Do they really care about our children at the end of the day?
If there is anybody who understands the child, it is the teacher. And I think during COVID-19,
we saw the insights.
You saw the importance of a teacher. And it clearly came out that the best place for the school-going child is the school with the teacher. The learners were at home with the parents. What happened?
Pregnancies and a lot of abuses went through.
So those who use it to think that teachers simply go there, sing with the children, do what, they understood. And by the time the end of lockdown came, everyone was saying, when will this go back? When will this? Even when we go for holidays, 2 weeks holiday, by the end of 2 weeks, the parents and the guardians are crying.
They just
when will you go back? Now, the teachers do a lot of work. Actually, they are unsung heroes who go, they do a lot with little or no recognition, which is unfortunate. All those professions, all these other people are what they are because of the teacher. And therefore, everyone should be feeling for the teacher. And we don't want to pretend that we are teaching when we are not teaching. Let's have an amicable resolution of the issues, and then we go back and teach. Otherwise, forcing them to go back, it is a wastage of time and a wastage of time for the learners, because the learners lost almost 2 years during COVID-19 lockdown. This shouldn't be the time
to have this kind
when
of
we
squabbles.
should be having this.
Let's get a little bit deeper. Philbert, teachers have consistently demanded salary rise, but we have seen a collecting drop in education standards across the country, both in quality of education and the quantity of students. What's your take on this? Is it still being affected by the salaries?
Do you know how much a teacher earns?
I don't need to know. I just have to look at the quality of the students they're bringing out.
So what you put in is what you get out.
Come on, Phil, but this is a calling. This is a calling. You went
even
into
those
teaching
who
because
say
it's a calling.
even those who say it is a calling, they were once teachers and they left teaching and went for other jobs and they continue to say it is a calling. Yes, it is a calling. But can a teacher go to class to teach without eating?
Come on,
Because it is a calling. Can you go to teach when you are hungry?
you can't. But when you tell me that what I invest in is what comes out, the quality of the education we're giving out is below the
a
standard.
teacher should be well trained, should be supported, should be facilitated with the resources to produce results.
Hasn't the teacher been facilitated with resources? Aren't you demanding for more? Aren't you greedy people?
You may call it greed, but I have asked you whether you know how much a teacher earns.
You tell me.
So that you get to know that teachers are the most patriotic Ugandans. A primary school teacher earns 560,000 before taxes. When you remove taxes, the teacher will be earning around 480,000. How many Ugandans can survive on that? This teacher also has children to take to school. This teacher also falls sick. This teacher rents a room like any other person. This teacher must wash and look smart in front of
The
children.
students.
And therefore, if you say it is greed, then the word greed could be meaning another thing.
Philbert, reports from Uwezo place teacher absence among the reasons as to why the declining education standards are going on.
Yes.
What is UNATU doing about this as a union?
First of all, we need to look at what causes absence.
Are we
before
really
look-
going to deny the responsibility of this? Are we just going to play blame?
No, I am bringing you. When you talk of absenteeism
Of teachers.
of teachers, what causes it? We have to look at the whole issue,
Holistically.
not simply saying absenteeism, because a teacher is appointed to teach. He knows he's supposed to teach from Monday to Friday. He knows he's supposed to be in school by 8 a.m. and start teaching up to 5. Now, if a teacher is consistently absent, then we need to go back and look at why is this teacher absent. There is, we have seen some of these, and even on social media. There was a young boy who was in school. This boy had a parent who was disabled. So every morning, the boy would first push
The parent.
the parent in a wheelchair to where the parent spends the whole day looking for survival. And because of that, the child would come late every day. So the teacher would beat the child in the hands every day.
Let come in.
The teacher did not go beyond that to find
understand.
out why this child specifically was coming late every day. So one time, the teacher was riding a bicycle. He saw the boy pushing
The parent.
the parent. He looked at the boy, then drove and went to class. The boy knew every day was beating, so whenever he would reach class, he would
avail.
avail the hands for the canes. So when he put them, the teacher declined, and the boy remained standing. The teacher did not
cane him.
So, now, if we only concentrate on the teachers are absent, without looking at what makes these teachers absent. Like this teacher who had not bothered to look at, why is this boy absent every day? Why? He only got shocked when he knew what was making the boy late.
Which is painful.
We need to look at what are these issues that affect the teacher. Why are they absent? Then we address what makes them absent. And then we shall have them in class.
We had the Minister of Finance, Kasai, just saying that, yes, we have given you the money, but the return on investment better show up as such. You have stood your ground and you're saying that tomorrow the strike is still ongoing. You're not going to be intimidated and you're going to stand by the rule of law. And I want to congratulate you upon that, standing on your ground. But on Twitter here, there is a tweet I want to read you. This comes from Noel. He's in Kanungu. He says, where were you when the budgeting was on? For us in Kanungu, we are teaching because it's our children suffering. And then it brings me to the question, what will happen to those other teachers or colleagues in the profession who will go back to class tomorrow and they won't, join your industry action?
It is their right. And that Noel from Kanungu,
yes.
He could be in another Kanungu, not the Kanungu.
You know?
I know.
Why?
Because I have the information on what is taking place in Kanungu.
What is the margin of error of the information you have and him, and rather how he's on ground?
He's teaching. Let him tell us his school.
Okay. More feedback coming in here. Namara Naume Baketunga. She says this statement is world class and looks all true because one is a teacher of, not the other way around, a fraudulent. Someone says, how can a primary teacher justify this fact? Someone who got F9 in chemistry. Someone is saying that you're forgetting about the course is a BSc. Then Okirol Cocker says, this industrial action has shown that Baguma is too ignorant of courses offered by teachers offered at secondary. Bachelor of Science with Education is a science course and is completely different from Bachelor of Arts with Education. We are either scientists or artists at second. And then Mogaga John says, why did you wait until when the budgeting process was done? Accept the laws, go back to class and make new strategies. You are going to respond to these. Katumweba Zenaume says the difference is in qualification. That makes one a scientist and the other one an arts teacher, holding a bachelor in science and education of arts. Mr. Baguma, you just don't wish science teachers well just because you're not a science teacher. And Derek Molonji says, Andrew, kindly tell Mr. Baguma that no goat produces a cow. If teachers of science produce scientists, there is absolutely no way they can't be scientists. You can't give what you don't have. That should be quite obvious to Teacher Baguma. Last but not least, because of time, Chisembo Oscar, thank you so much for the feedback. He says, Mr. Baguma, you signed CBA with the government in 2018, went home and slept on it up to today when the budgeting is over. You come up in arms to remind government about what you had earlier agreed. Really, are you a pro-teacher or are you against teachers? Comrade, all this is feedback from the teachers and countrymen who are watching this conversation.
Yes.
Respond to them. Are you against teachers or are you for teachers?
First of all, I want to make this clear. Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts. When they come out, what appointment do they have? We have 2 titles or 3. You are an education officer, you are an assistant education officer, you are a senior education officer. Those are the appointments they are holding. What is their work?
It is to teach.
To facilitate learning. And therefore, we don't need to go into semantics. When you are teaching Newton's law, do you become Newton?
Let's take a break for now. This is On the Spot on NTV. I'm taking a break and I'll return with a Philbert Baguma. When you teach Newton's law, do you become Newton? It's On the Spot. We'll be back shortly. On the Spot, I'm Andrew Chamagin, and in studio with me have Mr. Philbert Baguma. We went into a break when he said, when you teach Newton's law, you don't become Newton. Wasn't that a bare knuckle to these teachers who are saying you hate scientists?
But you are getting his concepts and helping the learners to understand them.
Newton.
Yes. That is your work. You have not come up with your own law to say, I have
a new law.
Yes. So, are you different from someone who has gotten a book of history and gotten the concepts and brought them to the learners? Two, I hear people say, where were you? You slept.
When
but
you signed the CBA?
I have told you in 2019 we were on industrial action.
And you got something.
And I have told you we suspended our industrial action. And I have told you we resumed our industrial action. And we have the communications that we have been making. Even in that very year, in November, we wrote to the head of public service, reminding him
of the agreement.
Yes. And the balance that we did not get. So, someone who says, oh, where were you?
You signed it, you went and slept on it.
I have told you, we were not mad to wake up during COVID-19 lockdown to say we want salary increment.
And another person says you're coming after the budget was passed. Why didn't you do this?
Who told him? I have told you in the last week of May, government got a supplementary budget of over 600 billion.
Well, we had
was it in the budget? It is on record in this country that government has ever gotten a supplementary budget 1 day to the close of financial year. This is the same country. We are reminding government of its obligation. Do they have the figures tabulated in the budget that is going to start operating
in a week's time,
effective 1st July? Do they have them? Have they seen them anywhere?
It is coming through.
Yes. Government still has the opportunity
to lock this out,
to make the learners of this country, the innocent learners of this country, study.
Someone here says, was 40 million supposed to be given to the arts teacher? Why are you taking what you don't understand? That is Otema Nelson. Someone in Soroti says, every goat on its own stave. Tomorrow we are in class. Philbert, you're going to die in this salon. Wasukira Dennis says, let Baguma get drills on lobbying for his subject instead of shooting everyone in front of them.
Who is shooting who?
They are saying you're shooting against the Sun teachers.
We have categorically stated we don't want the money which they give the teachers of science. Government gave them money. We are asking government to give all teachers increment.
Okay.
That is not shooting anybody.
That's all you want.
Unless they cannot comprehend what I am saying.
Okadia Bernard say the Baguma, if you're not careful, you're going to remain in this alone starting tomorrow, and don't use primary teachers for your selfish personal interests. Science is for development, and we need it. I'm still reading your feedback. We're having this conversation about the teachers' strike tomorrow. Baguma says all teachers that subscribe to the UNATU, you have a right to go back to class, but the industrial action is still going to stay. Lollipop on Twitter says, let science teachers stop using English to teach science. Won't that solve Baguma's problem?
Let them use their science language. Even when they are writing there,
yes,
they are writing the English that was taught to them by the teacher of English.
Do you feel as countrymen we don't understand what teachers are going through in a way? Are we in one way or the other taking this in a trivial way, or we don't understand the magnitude at which this means to our learners as well?
You see, the teachers are like candles that give light while they are diminishing. Whoever goes through the hands of the teacher forgets
that I went through that teacher.
That's why the Chancellor of Germany was paying teachers more than any other person. And they asked her why. Why do you pay teachers more than any other person? And he said, who made you what you are?
Teachers did.
And therefore, when we are looking at teachers, we are supposed to be paying teachers more than any other person.
Okay, Waswa Wilson says, what did science teachers do to this man called Baguma? I'll leave there at that. But Jacob Otema Alimandi says it's very annoying. Reduce classified and give teachers equal pay. That is what he's saying. Thembo Ben, he says, actually, Mr. Philbert, you're really a real man who can fight for millions of Ugandans out there. May God bless you so much. You're really a unique person I've never seen who can stand for many of those. And this one says, help me ask that man called Baguma, must all scientists have laws? Should one have come up with a law of hypothesis to be classified as a scientist? What a reasoning from a general secretary of a union.
I have told you,
yes,
the work of a teacher is to facilitate learning. And that's why even when the government is talking about scientists, it says scientists and teachers of science. Why classify them like that? They are aware that we have a group referred to as scientists and we have teachers of science.
Yeah.
Right? So those two are different. And when, supposing all teachers of English decided not to teach English, what would happen?
Chaos. Chaos.
So why don't they look at that?
Okrut Isaac says, let Baguma push for salary enhancement of the people he represents other than sabotaging the scientist teachers. Isra says, this is a fact. You need to strike a balance. Kids will lose in most of these. Baguma himself earns 7 million. Do you earn 7 million?
That one knows where he is getting the information.
If you're earning 7 million, someone here says Baguma himself earns 7 million, but this money is deducted from his members.
Yes.
What has he done to boost their welfare apart from engaging and using them always to be in strikes which are useless? This is Zidane is 66. He believes you're using your position just to push your personal agendas.
Whose personal agendas?
Your personal agenda.
So when they increase the salary of a teacher and the teacher goes to class and teaches, does that become a Baguma agenda?
Maybe. Then Samuel Kosti says, align your thoughts to Vision 2040, Mr. Baguma.
Yes.
The president has a vision goal on this. A country that is driven by science has progressed. Don't look at your selfish interest. I find it, for lack of better words, friends, when you're sending messages, let's be a little bit polite. We're having a civil conversation here. That is one. Then Stephen Ochola says, Baguma's interest is only in the members' contribution, not the welfares of individual members, right? And then he says, you're angry that some of your former members will not be contributing to you again, but forgetting that your malicious practice that has driven the scientists away to leave UNATU.
By the way, let me tell you, very few of them were members of UNATU.
Very few.
Very few.
Okay.
So I don't know where that one is driving the fact that they are not going to contribute to UNATU. Of their leaders, who was a leader in UNATU? That one is just making an assumption.
Okay. Someone here says, thank you so much, comrades, for this feedback. We're finding solutions as a country. Someone says, what are the contributions of the history of science, like you call it, the history of history? Don't be limited. And this one is saying that is Wakera Moses says, Mr. Baguma is now realizing that he would have begun with, but unfortunately it's getting late for him. The budget was closed. Teachers deserve equal pay because they have the same qualification. Let government give the teachers their money. They're saying Baguma is too far from understanding life. How can you link a physics teacher to a history teacher? It's high time you enter the bush, face the thorns, and hunt such that by the next financial year, you have something big on your plate. As you're finalizing this conversation, Mr.
Yes.
Baguma, I really want to thank you for the clarity you've offered. Tomorrow, we are still in industrial action. Our
Yes.
children are still not going to see arts teachers.
Yes.
And those who are not going to keep the industrial action going, it's their right regardless. Will they be penalized by the UNATU organization though?
We cannot penalize someone who is exercising his right. Yes.
And you won't be intimidated by whatsoever.
Why should you get intimidated when you are following the law?
So what can bring this all back to normal? Do you have a particular figure you want governments to pass it, or do you want it in a phased manner? Because commitments with government don't seem to yield from the one of 2018. So what do you need as teachers that can help you go back to school and our kids can get learning?
You see, I told you we have a collective bargaining agreement. In this collective bargaining agreement, there are figures in this collective bargaining
Progressive figures.
Progressive figures. And it is expiring next financial year. Next financial year is 2022-2023. A primary school teacher was destined to get 1,350,000. A diploma holder at 2,700,000. Diploma science, 3 million. Graduate arts, 4.5 million. Graduate science, 4.8 million.
As per the document.
Yes. And therefore, those are the figures that the government is supposed to be looking at. Yes.
Those figures, if they're given to the teachers, earlier on we alluded to something called a management crisis.
Yes.
So what becomes of those at the top then?
Those at the top are over and above that.
Okay.
Because the document was made in such a way that
It covers
all
everything.
those are catered for. Yes.
So once you're given that,
Because a head teacher, for example, a principal of a diploma awarding institution would be getting 12.2 million. and then the others would be moving down. That would be the
structure.
The structure for tertiary. Diploma awarding 12.2 million. Then the others you'd move. But there would not be overlap where you find U4 earning more than U1.
So this could possibly be my final question. It's disturbing as a parent. So after tomorrow, if government does not seem to come through with all these demands, how long is this strike still going to be on?
It is dependent on the government.
They either give you the money or there is nothing more.
Yes, because if we wait for you to invite us for a discussion...
But you had the discussion last week.
Yes, but they were assigned to have an engagement with us. And the engagement that came was a letter intimidating. Now that letter made matters worse. The bad situation worse.
So that means the strike is on until when you get the money?
Yes.
You're not open to talks, are you?
Even in our communication, we indicated it very clearly. Yes.
Well, Philbert, I wish you the best of luck. It was great to have you.
Yes.
Tonight was such a heated conversation. We had Philbert Baguma here, the Secretary General from UNATU. The conversation was about education. So tomorrow, my fellow countrymen, parents, the arts teachers are still on strike until when government...
Actually, not only the arts teachers.
Okay.
Primary school teachers and teachers of arts.
It is that spread.
Hey.
Philbert, this is serious. You're making the education structure limp.
I'm not making it limp.
You just need what is meant for you.
Those who make irrational decisions are the ones who make it limp.
By giving a few and leaving the others. Well, that brings us to the end of the conversation tonight. My name is Andrew Chamagedo, and we had Philbert Baguma, the Secretary General of UNATU. And tomorrow, the strike still goes on. Have a lovely night.